guys? So it's the middle of my lunch break and I was actually about to do my comparison between the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the OnePlus 13, but to my surprise, Apple dropped a new product called the iPhone 16e. So I wanted to give you guys my first impressions and thoughts about the device. Also do a quick comparison between the existing iPhone 16 that's already out. But we have to first talk about our sponsor for today, which is nobody. So I know nothing about this product at all. I'm reading the tagline with you guys as well. It's the latest iPhone at the greatest price. I don't even know how much it costs yet, but let's first dig into the comparison between the existing 16 model. It's been a while since I've done videos like this, so let me know if you enjoy this down in the comments below. But what I typically do whenever iPhone or Apple releases a new product, I hop over to iPhone, go to compare, and compare it against my own device. But since this is more of an informative video, I'm going to actually bring up the latest SE model, and I'm gonna have the 16e in the middle, which is what they just announced, and then also the regular 16, just so I can see from like a quick glance and a single page of what was actually changed. So right off the rip, there's only two colors, my favorite colors on smartphones if you are new to this channel. They're both black and white. They have the highest resale value. They're the most clean in my opinion. But yeah, black and white are only two color options, and the price is there right there in front of us at $600. So pretty impressed by Apple. Once again, whoever is new management at Apple, they are doing a good job like these past 4 or 5 years. Like just what they're putting out each year, they're definitely listening to the market and the people and putting out products that people would actually want. So I have to say this might be one of the best mid-range phones that have come out by Apple, but we're about to see. So looking at dimension-wise, it's very similar to the iPhone 16, which I have right here, and I will make sure to place it right here just so you guys have some reference. The back is aluminum with glass, but as you can see with the regular 16, there are color infused. Personally, right, as you can see, black. I don't think you're really missing out too much, but if you want more, I guess, fun in your color, by all means, you have to get the iPhone 16. It is aluminum, so it's going to be very similar to what we have on the 16 here. Also has the action button, which is great. And the chip as well, wow, they are not skimping out at all. So we're getting the same chip that's on the latest iPhones, the A18 chip. Obviously, the Snapdragon is a very comparable chip, the Elite series, but Apple has always been pretty good, especially with their software as well. We don't have camera control. I'm actually happy about that. It would be this button here if you aren't familiar with it on iPhones. I actually think this button is more of an annoyance than it is a, benefit. I actually I thought I had it disabled. I guess I have it disabled on the 16 Pro Max, but it's more annoying than anything else. I'm actually glad they don't have it here on the 16e. I don't think a lot of people really need to use it. Just use the volume button or click the shutter button on the screen. We also get the 2-in-1 camera system, the Fusion camera. If you aren't familiar with that, I'll show you real quick. So if you look at the back camera real quick, you'll notice that there are two lenses. One is actually the ultra wide. The other one is the 2-in-1 camera. So it has the main lens and the telephoto as well. So if you wanted to zoom in and do the telephoto, you're actually retaining a lot of the quality. You're not missing out too much. And you do one times, it's actually using the same exact lens system. And then the ultra wide is the dedicated ultra wide lens. So it's nice that we are getting that inside the 16e. It says it has the super high resolution photo, portrait mode with depth control. It doesn't have the next generation portraits with focus and depth control. I'd say as long as you have portrait mode, it's going to be fine. Macro photography, don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out on that. I think that's a nice, leave off. When it comes to the iPhone, you still get to record at 4K 60, which is great. You don't get to take spatial photos and videos, but I'd argue if you're not going to be an Apple Vision Pro user, you're not really missing out on much. Photographic styles, you don't get the latest generation photographic styles, and I can show you that real quick, what they mean by that. So photographic styles, the latest generation would be this. So you don't get all this nice, I guess, customization. And I actually have a iPhone 13 Pro that I can show what the old photographic styles looks like. Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick correction on the photographic style. So this is the iPhone 13 Pro that I was talking about before. In order to get the photographic styles, if you click on this up arrow here, it'll bring up this, I don't know, carousel is what we're gonna call it. If you click on this, This is the photographic styles that I was talking about. So in terms of what you're going to get on the 16E, it's going to be something very similar to this versus the next generation that's on the 16 series and above. But when it comes to the latest generation of the photographic styles, you're going to have to get, I believe, the 15, maybe even the 14 and above. Let me look at the 14. No, so let's go to 15. Yeah, you have to get the 16 series or above in order to get that photographic style, or the latest generation photographic style. Visual intelligence, learn more about your surroundings. That's great. Optical zoom. So like I said before, that 2-in-1 camera, you get that 1 and 2 times. And then 16, obviously you get that ultra wide lens as well. No dynamic island. Once again, I don't think this is a big miss for a lot of people when it comes to the iPhone. Once again, I'm still using the iPhone 13 Pro as one of my devices, and I actually kind of prefer the notch. But you know, it's not like I'm missing out on much. I've used the dynamic island. I'd say it's not like I miss it that much whenever I do go back to devices that don't have it, but it is a nice to have. Has all the emergency stuff, so if someone were to T-bone my car, does the crash detection. I'm able to, I guess, send messages via satellite, which is also cool on a device that's $600. Video playback is actually higher than the 16, so I would say that's actually pretty impressive, especially with the same chip and whatnot. That makes me have some suspicion that the display is actually not as good as I thought it was, even though it does say they're exactly the same in terms of the actual finish. But you know, we do have better battery life. Probably some optimization that they're doing. USB-C, God bless, on iPhone 16e. Happy that that's there. It's only USB-C 2, so it's not Thunderbolt that's on like the Pro series and above, as you can see. Or it's USB 3, my bad, not Thunderbolt. Face ID is there, 5G is there, Ceramic Shield is there, but there is a latest generation of Ceramic Shield on the front, whatever that means. Tougher than any iPhone. Water resistant is the same, so IP68, which is great. Qi charging doesn't look like there's magnets in the phone, which I would say could be a big miss when it comes to the iPhone 16e, although I would say on the Apple side for cases, MagSafe is kind of built into a lot of the cases. So I would say if you do intend to pick up this device and you want to utilize MagSafe, make sure that the case you get does have the magnets inside of them, or on the outside, so you can use it for your accessories, what I mean. So yeah, doesn't look like there's MagSafe. That's actually a pretty big shocker that I was not expecting. Storage capacity, as you can tell from the old SE generation, we start off at 128. Still a little bit shocking we're doing 128 in starting price, especially looking at the iPhone 16 models. But if you want to get that 256, you have to jump up to $700. But 600 for an entry-level iPhone now, I'd say not too bad. Now looking at the display, so it is OLED. Like I said before, there's no dynamic island. We're getting the HDR display, which is great. It's slightly less in terms of the resolution. That's mainly just due to the size itself. Contrast the same, true tone, all that stuff the same. So yeah, the brightness is not as bright. And as you can see, outdoor, it goes up to 2000 on the iPhone 16. And it goes down to 1 nit as well. So we don't have that granularity or even that capability on the iPhone 16e, which is why the battery life, I would say, is probably going to be much better from their claims that they have on the spec sheets. So it's a slightly smaller device and slightly lighter device as well compared to the 16, which is pretty good. IP68, since the depth is the same. Apple Intelligence offered on both because they both have the A18 chip. Camera system seems to be mainly the same on the main lens, so 48 megapixel fusion camera. The ultra wide, like I said before, we don't have one since it's not there. It's just a single camera. No sensor shift, optical stabilization. Everything else is pretty much the same. We already talked about before. We don't have that next gen portrait mode. Night mode is there. Photographics is there. Macro photography and spatial photos not there. Don't think that's a big miss for people on the 16e. 4K Dolby Vision, 4K Dolby Vision, up to 60 FPS, and then same when it comes to the 1080 side as well. No cinematic mode. If you aren't familiar with cinematic mode, I can show you real quick. Cinematic mode is basically just video with the blurred background done by default. Don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out on that because I think the video is just fine when it comes to the iPhone. Still have the time lapses there, slow-mo's there. Action mode, if you aren't familiar with action mode, I can show you that as well. Action mode is essentially, it's almost as if you have a gimbal. It does make it ultra wide, and you can definitely zoom in and stuff like that, but it basically just has a lot of stabilization added to it whenever you do action mode. Spatial video, don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out on that for people who tend to pick up the iPhone 16e. Macro video recording, once again, don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out. Everything else seems to be pretty much the same, or I've already talked about before. It's nice that we do have the wind noise reduction in the audio mix. I think that's great. Front camera, not the same. It's very close. So all this is the same, but we still don't have that next generation portraits with the front facing camera. And on top of that, we actually don't get the cinematic mode with the front facing camera, but curious to see what the lens difference is because it seems to be mostly the same. Hopefully it's not locked by software. That would suck. Peace of mind, I guess that's just satellite crashes and stuff like that. That's good. Cell service, we don't have this DCHS DPA, which is interesting. We also don't get the millimeter wave. I don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out. I don't think a lot of people are going to be missing out by not having the millimeter wave. I would say as long as you have 5G with the sub-G or sub-6 gigahertz band, you're going to be fine, especially with 4x4 MIMO. That's great, way better than 2x2 MIMO. I say MIMO. So that's probably another reason why the battery life is significantly better than what is on the 16. Gigabit LTE, all that's good. We don't get Wi-Fi 7. Don't think that's a miss. I think Wi-Fi 6 for a lot of people is completely fine. We don't have the ultra wide band chip, which might suck if you're trying to do a lot of the Find My stuff. You won't get those arrows. Thread network technology. I'd say people who are probably buying this phone don't even know what that is. I think people who even own the iPhone 16 don't even know what Thread is. Has all the other cellular networking stuff. Face ID is all there. Apple Pay's there. Apple Card's there. Video calling, all that's there. Audio calling, all that's there. Audio playback, pretty much the same. Even have the Dolby Atmos support. Video playback, HDR10 plus. Dolby Vision, Siri, the Apple Intelligence, that's all there. So this is the interesting thing that I'm guessing during their presentation they kind of doubled down on, and it's just the capability of the battery life and what they were able to cut out in order to improve that. And I would say, let me go to the iPhone 16 Pro, because that's actually really impressive. So video playback is only an hour less than the Pro. It's an hour less on video playback when it's streamed, but you still get longer, supposedly, battery life when it comes to the audio playback. So even compared to the 16, I would say it kind of knocks it out the park in terms of the battery. You still get that fast charging capabilities. Unfortunately, you don't have Qi 2 charging. You don't have MagSafe as well, but still has wireless charging, which I think is great. The sensors are pretty much the same from the iPhone 16. Dual SIM, it's an iPhone in America, so I would say, not anything too crazy about not having a physical SIM card. I'd say probably overseas you have the SIM card as a default option, but here in America, no SIM card tray. You have to get eSIM, USB-C, and that's pretty much it. So I would say first impressions for a $600 iPhone, and compared to the old budget version of the iPhone, this is way better than the SE. You're basically just getting an old Pro model for $600 with a lot of the updated features and better processor. And I don't want to say better camera, right? You don't get the ultra wide, you don't get the dedicated telephoto and all that other good stuff. But for a 2-in-1 camera, I would say it's good enough. I would like to see the camera be the part where they kind of improved it the most. I don't know if they were, I don't think they needed to gut the camera that much. I think they kind of gutted a lot of the good stuff that people really don't need. Stuff like not having the millimeter wave inside of the cell service, and then also the brightness of the display and stuff like that. I think that also kind of contributed to having the lower price tag. Also making the device slightly smaller as well. But it is what it is. I'd say $600. I would say this actually makes the mid-range category a bit more spicy, because I don't think Apple was really fighting in this territory, the $600 territory, and I believe that's actually the same price as the OnePlus 13R. So not only is this device interesting, at least here in the States, this is an interesting device overseas as well. I'd say probably makes it more accessible for people who want to get into the iPhone, but they don't want to, break the bank by getting the regular priced device that's out. But my advice is, even if I were to switch this to like the iPhone 15, I'd say the iPhone 15 is probably still a better device through and through. And I'd say you could probably pick it up for around the same price. So that's just my take on it. If the 16E is your only option in terms of your price, I'd say go for it. But if you are able to snag a 15, I'd say even a 14 Pro at the latest, I would say just get that device instead. But the 16E, I would say, is a great addition to the iPhone lineup. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Appreciate every single sub, like, and comment. I try not to be too sensationalized when I do this stuff, because it's more of just like, what am I actually thinking about when it comes to these devices. But yeah, happy that this is here, and Apple's lineup makes the mid-range category spicier. Appreciate every single sub, like, and comment. And as always, guys, much love. Now I gotta get back to work. And I also have to still do the reviews on these two devices.